I'm going to try to make this as clear as I can so everybody understands it. So when you have a case in court, there has to be an actual case or controversy. Otherwise, the court does not have jurisdiction to even hear that case. And if there's no case, then there can't be a settlement of that case. And if there can't be a settlement of that case, then there can't be a fund created by the settlement. And there can't be any immunity for Trump and his sons to never have to have an audit of their taxes and maybe never pay those taxes. But none of that can happen if there's no case. So she had questioned way back whether there was really a case or controversy here. She said, you know, you're on the same side of this thing. Is there really any adverse party? You're the president. You control the Treasury, you know, so you're both on the same side. And he even made a quote saying, I guess I'm negotiating with myself. So he knew it, too. OK, so that's why she now is worried this was a frivolous filing that can be sanctioned. But she was about to get briefs on this issue of whether there's a real case or controversy. And they didn't want her to reach that. Not so much the merits. They didn't even want her to decide that there wasn't a case, because if there's no case, there's no settlement and no basis for the order. So 2 days before the brief was due, they come up with this voluntary dismissal. And she says on the record, gee, there's no settlement here. I note that there's no settlement. Well, that's because they didn't tell her that there was indeed a settlement. No sooner did she put her pen on the paper and sign off on this voluntary dismissal. Guess what happened? They announced the settlement. And she was duped. She was really duped. Yep. And so when we wrote that motion, we said, you know, this is a fraud on the court. You have the power to investigate that. And that's what she did just tonight, half hour ago. She said, I'm going to investigate this. So she didn't reopen it yet, but she called for briefing on it. And in 2 weeks, the government has to respond, June 12th. And then the other side has 1 week if they want to respond to that. She didn't set a hearing date, but she sure wants to see what the government has to say, because she is threatening them right now with sanctions.
Skye, I know you are a talented attorney, not a prognosticator, but I have to admit your prognostication has been pretty on point. Given the multiple bumps in the road that this slush fund is facing, your sense of where this goes next?
Look, I think it's facing a ton of bumps in court, but it's also facing a massive pushback in the court of public opinion. And I think the combination of that is really putting the president in a bind. And if he and his allies are smart, they would abandon all of this and try to just leave it on the table. I mean, you've already had a judge in our case today call the administration out and say, by the way, you wouldn't confirm whether you were going to move money around over the weekend or what you're doing. They didn't even want to wait for the court to hear whether this fund was even lawful. And the judge says you can't do that. Then you have a judge in Florida saying, and by the way, that first case you filed, I have a lot of questions about that, right? So they're in a real bind in court, as they have been, frankly, since the beginning of this administration. But you also saw this week, even Senate Republicans are asking questions, which is quite shocking, given that they've been so quiet to aid and abet this administration. But this is shockingly unpopular with people. It is rank corruption, and we know that corruption doesn't deliver, and people are sick and tired of it. People across the ideological spectrum. And so I think that this is going to continue to push the president, and really what we need to see is every single American, everybody in Congress, regardless of what letter is behind your name, this needs to go away. And they need to force the president's hand here. And I think you might see that.
You know, what is it that Nicole Wallace refers to? Is it Earth 2? Earth 2 is the alternate reality that Trump lives in. I feel like we're on Earth 1. But then on May 18th, the president was talking about this slush fund, and I have a thought about what he said, but take a listen.
It's been very well received, I have to tell you. I know very little about it. I wasn't involved in the whole creation of it and the negotiation. But this is reimbursing people that were horribly treated, horribly treated. These were people that were weaponized and really treated brutally by a system that was so corrupt, with corrupt people running it, and they're getting reimbursed for their legal fees and the other things that they had to suffer.
The president lives on Earth, too, because the people that would be getting payouts from this fund are people that attacked police officers on January 6th, are people who were trying to stop the certification of the election process, are people who were convicted through legal processes, right? Like some of them by juries, judge, some of them by judges independently. Many of them are on record saying that they are sorry for what they did. They admitted their crimes. The government tried to gaslight us here. And again, I say, if people do not speak up and speak out when these things happen, this is how they run away with the store. What the president just said in that clip is so wildly incorrect. But again, he keeps repeating it like it's just normal day at the office.
Yeah, well, as you said, some of these people pled guilty. They weren't just convicted by a jury or by a judge in a non-jury case. They pled guilty. So they acknowledged what they did. They know they were criminals. A lot of them were in jail. And, of course, they were all then pardoned, which was, I thought, an outrage. But he has the right to pardon anybody he wants to. But it was not a moral, ethical thing to do. Right? So he has the power, but he didn't exercise it in a moral, ethical way. But as to your point about bending the knee, with the case against the law firms, they decided not to appeal it. Remember that? And then the next morning they said, oops, we made a mistake. We are appealing it. So I'm not so sure that he's going to back off of this. The reason Republicans aren't at all happy here is because they're facing the voters in the midterms. And the voters, as you said, say, hey, I pay my taxes. Why isn't this guy paying his taxes? What's going on here? Why are these January 6th rioters getting a piece of money? I want money. Why aren't they getting money? And if you noticed, the only ones who can get money from these funds are those who face the Democrats having weaponized, not the Republicans having weaponized. And that's the great point that Sky made in the brief that she filed in the District of Virginia, that this is just not being done in any fair way. So as bad as it is all around, that was really a great point that I think that brief made, or that complaint, I should say.